Great. It's my great pleasure to welcome you here at the first ever Young European Leadership Discussion Forum. My name is Tillmann Heidelk, and I'm the co-founder and president of Young European Leadership, YEL. Young European Leadership is an international non-profit organization by young people and for young people. This means we work for the empowerment of our young generation of young people. We have different activities. For example, we have a global delegations program where we send the delegation of the European Union towards the official young counterparts to the annual G20 summits in collaboration with the Office of the President of the European Commission. We also attend the annual UNSCCCs. And we organize our own conferences, for example, the annual Young European Council taking place here in Brussels, or other smaller events like this one here, or others which take place all over Europe. Before we start our evening, brief opening remarks from me. Since several years, the EU and indeed Europe as a whole faces an increased influx of migrants and refugees. Now, welcoming new people to our societies in itself is really nothing new. We can look at it in a historical context, but also in a regional context. For example, look at the countries surrounding Syria, or look at Africa. So migration and refugees is not a new topic to us and to this world in general. And thanks to this very high media attention, I think most of us are really aware of the bigger picture. So I will not repeat all these numbers which are floating around, and I will just mention two for setting the stage. First, in 2015 and in 2016, the European Union has welcomed plus or minus 1.3 million new asylum seekers here at home. That is about 6 times more than in 2008 and 4 times more than in 2012. So we see a relatively sudden and stark increase of the number of asylum seekers. And if we look at the numbers of UNHCR, we see that by the end of 2016, we had about 10 million so-called concerned people in our society. That is about 6.6 million refugees, 500,000 stateless people, and many more. Now, refugees and migrants really come for very different reasons to our societies, obviously. And I personally believe actually they have a great potential benefit to our societies in terms of culture, for example, demographics, the labor market. But for this to work out and for reaping these mutual benefits, the key thing to achieve is integration or inclusion into our societies. And that's really why we're here today, to address the question of inclusion into our societies from 2 different perspectives. From a European perspective and from a local perspective. And hence Brussels is probably the best place to have this event. Now, before we kick off and before I leave the stage, two last remarks. First, we record the event tonight here, so you can always watch it afterwards online. And we invite you to engage online with the free Wi-Fi which is provided under the hashtag YEL Discussion Forum. And on the little leaflets, you have the relevant Twitter handles of the organizations which are on stage. And second, I would like to thank, first of all, you, the attendees, for coming out to what is certainly the hottest event we ever had in Brussels. It's a pleasure to have you. I would like to thank our excellent speakers who will address you in just a moment. And last but not least, I would like to thank our partner, Debating Europe, with whom we work in a consortium to secure the funding of the European Citizens Program by the European Union, which makes this even possible. And last but not least, the staff of European Leadership, first of all, Luiza and Nita, the project leader and also moderator here tonight. And in addition, Claudia Scandol, Eduardo Caroli, Sarah Maynard, Joseph Shaw, and a very spontaneous helper, Valerie David. Thank you very much and enjoy. Luiza, stays yours.
Thank you, Tillmann, for the nice introduction. So my name is Luiza and I'll be your host for tonight, and I'll have the pleasure now to introduce our guest speakers. So I will start with Mrs. Claire Courteille-Mulder. She is the Director of the Office of the International Labour Organization. If you could join us on stage, please. Thank you. Our next guest speaker is Mrs. Catherine Woollard. She is the Secretary General of the European Council on Refugees and Exiles. And I would like to have the pleasure to invite on stage Mr. Antoine Savary. He's the Deputy Head of the Legal Migration and Integration Unit at the European Commission. Last but not least, we have Mr. Romain Gustot. He's the Junior Project Officer at MIEUX Integration EU Expertise at the International Center for Migration and Policy Development. Fantastic. We shall start with a short round of introductions. So basically our guest speakers will have prepared short presentations for you, and then we will start with the panel discussion. Just to let you know, we have 20 minutes of Q&A at the end, so please prepare your questions. We will have a microphone which will be circulating around the room, so you will get the chance to ask as many questions as you wish. So I highly encourage you to do that. And apart from that, please tweet. So the hashtag MIEUX discussion forum and our Twitter handle is MIEUX tweets. We're all young, we all know how to use Twitter. If you don't, it's the perfect time to start doing it because it's super helpful and it will help you in the future. So I'll end my remarks here and I will start with the first presentation by Mrs. Courteille-Mulder.
Thank you, Luiza. I'll come and stand here to not be behind the desk and so that I can see my own slides. And I've been asked just to say a few words about ECRE, what we do, and why we think inclusion is so important. And I'd also compliment Tillmann for using the expression inclusion, because I think the way we're going is to say inclusion rather than integration, because it has less of the sense of assimilation. And it makes us think about inclusive societies more widely. So the European Council on Refugees and Exiles is a pan-European alliance. We now have 98 member organisations in 40 European countries. And that ranges from Ireland on one side of Europe to Belarus, Ukraine, Turkey, right across the other side. ECRE was founded in 1974. So it is exactly as old as I am, but that's an extra detail. And our mission is to promote fair and humane asylum policies in Europe and to defend and promote the rights of refugees, asylum seekers and displaced persons within Europe. As I'll mention, within Europe also sometimes takes us outside Europe because of course what happens within Europe has an impact globally too. In terms of ECRE, a few points. The date. When ECRE was founded in 1974, asylum and refugee protection was of course still an issue, but it was one that had a slightly different dimension and different focus. And one of the reasons it's the Council on Refugees and Exiles is also that. We were talking about exiles from the Soviet Union, for instance. We were talking about political exiles from post-colonial conflicts, etc. I would also say that ECRE now has more members than it's ever had, and it is perhaps more needed than it's ever been. So moving on, if we can look at that slide, you can't see very clearly, but it gives a sense of the scope of the network all across Europe. If we move down next, what do we actually do as an alliance? So our four core activities are legal support and litigation. We're involved in probably, I hesitate to sound immodest, but probably every major asylum case in the last 20 years, ECRE has been involved in some way or another. Providing advice to lawyers, devising strategy with lawyers. We look at litigation both in Strasbourg and Luxembourg. Right now, because of the hostile political environment we're working in, we're investing more and more in litigation because we look to the courts to help us defend rights. We also, our second activity is research and documentation. We have the so-called AIDA database, which provides a comparative assessment of asylum systems in practice. So we have more than 20 European countries in the database, and we look at the transposition and implementation of EU law in those countries. So it's one thing to look at the Common European Asylum System, the legal framework for asylum. What we're trying to do is look in practice, what is the actual case for an asylum seeker? What is the legal framework in the country and how is that implemented? Thirdly, we have advocacy work. This covers external affairs, the rights of refugee children, return. So for instance, we have a meeting next week on Afghanistan where we look at the impact of return policies on EU-Afghanistan relations, how this will affect the strategic approach of the EU in Afghanistan. And the final one here is refugee inclusion, and this takes us to our subject today. The fourth area of our work is communications. Now, refugee inclusion is one of our strategic priorities for the next 3 years, and that means it's not just something we do under advocacy, it comes into all of these areas of work. So on litigation, for instance, many of the legal cases we're involved in are where asylum seekers and refugees are trying to access their rights. And this is part of the key step for inclusion is to access rights within Europe. In communication, for instance, we've tried to change our communication work so that we show positive images of refugees rather than just victim images, and we also show positive stories from Europe of people stepping up to support and defend the rights of refugees. Finally, if we can move to the final couple of slides, the context in which we're working. As has already been said by Tillmann, the context at the moment is a difficult one. What we saw in 2015 to 2016 was a quite extraordinary and also, I would say, unnecessary crisis on this issue within Europe. There was an increase in the number of people arriving. There were 4 times as many from 2014 to 2015 of asylum seekers arriving in Europe. But Europe as a whole could and should have coped with the situation. It's the richest continent in the world with a population of 700 million. We go to all European countries. And instead what we saw was this extraordinary sense of panic, ad hoc responses and difficulty in reaching a common European solution. We should also note that globally more people are forcibly displaced than at any point in history, and 90% of those are not in Europe. In fact, the vast majority are in the same 5 host countries, and 86% of those who are forcibly displaced. So why did this turn into such a crisis? Partly it was because of the way people arrived. The spontaneous arrivals of people historically always creates a sense of panic and fear. This is due to the absence of legal routes to access protection, but also the absence of legal routes for other migrants, for non-refugees. What we've seen now in Europe, I think, is a dangerous phase where the EU member states haven't been able to reach an agreement among themselves, so the question of solidarity, a collective European response is almost given up on, and instead we see a strategy of externalisation, of trying to outsource the problem to other regions through restrictive measures in Europe, non-entree, hard border policies, and outsourcing to other countries. I will just wrap up by our alternatives to this. It's easy to criticise, and NGOs are often criticised for only criticising and not coming up with alternatives. We have our own alternative vision in many detailed papers of what asylum and refugee protection should look like in Europe. That's based on the 4 points you see there. A reform of the Common European Asylum System to have a functioning and fair legal order, solidarity within the EU with collective sharing of responsibilities, safe and legal channels to reach protection as point 2. Third, global solutions where Europe does its fair share, recognising that this is a global issue a global question of forced migration. And finally, fourth, last but not least, inclusion of refugees in European societies. Despite the negative trends that we've seen in Europe, there are also lots of positive developments. We've seen a huge wave of generosity of people stepping up to support refugees, individuals, volunteers, organisations, and new actors, cities, municipalities, local governments, professionals who offer their services pro bono, and above all refugees themselves, who become increasingly active and advocate for their own rights. And with that, my final slide and final comments: why is refugee inclusion one of our priorities? Refugees, people with international protection status are in Europe. Therefore, in order to respect their rights, they should be included in our societies. And inclusion begins with accessing rights. In order to, for let's say more strategic reasons, in order to reduce polarisation, hostility, perception of security risks, it's important that people are included in our societies and not marginalised. Left outside without the right to employment, for instance, which is one of the key rights in order to lead to inclusion. And thirdly, because of the credibility question, double standards, as Europe is often accused of, Europe now is insisting on supporting, advocating for integration of refugees in other societies, in the major host countries, for instance. In order to be credible, it also has to be inclusive itself and protect and defend the rights of refugees. For that reason, it's something we prioritise, but that also means for us as an organisation and the refugee rights sector, we're trying to include more and more refugees. And I'll end with a strange comment that part of that, I would hope in a couple of years that I'm out of a job, as we bring through the new generation of refugee activists into our own work, and including our new policy officer on refugee inclusion, who is himself a refugee and focusing on empowerment of refugees in our work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Catherine. We will now proceed with the presentation of Mrs. Claire. Claire Fontaine.
It's very hard to say, I know. Yeah. I'll stand here. Well, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. It's really great to be here. I have to say that I'm still very nostalgic about my youth and my young years, so I'm just very happy. It feels good to be with young people again, so thanks for that. Maybe I could start off by building on the bit of information that Tillmann gave us in his presentation and give you a bit the global picture. How is it at the global level with the situation of migrants and refugees? Well, first, I think we can say, and this is what the United Nations say in any case, that migration affects all countries. There is no country that can actually, maybe North Korea, I'm not sure, they might have some migration flows as well, but virtually every country is affected by migration, either as a country of origin, a country of destination, or a country of transit. And many countries are the three of them. At the global level, we have 244 million migrants throughout the world. The biggest recipient continents, the continents that accept or that you receive most migrants, is actually North America, followed by Africa. And 50%, so half of the migrants were actually born in Asia. So Asia is the continent, the biggest provider of migrants. If you look at the situation of refugees now all over the world, and I think Tillmann referred to that, we've got 22.5 exactly millions of refugees throughout the world. And half of them, 55% of them, so half of them come from three countries in the world. And this is Afghanistan, this is South Sudan, and this is Syria. Three countries providing half of the world's refugees. If we look at the countries that receive refugees, the first country is Turkey, it's got 3 million. The second is Pakistan. The third is Lebanon. And Lebanon is a very particular case because Lebanon's got 25% of its population that is refugees. And out of the population, can you imagine, we've got 4 million people living in Lebanon, and 1 million of them are actually refugees. So it's a quarter of the population. And then it's followed by Iran. So you see the magnitude of the issue of migration and refugees. So there was a good reason, I mean, the importance of the problem, because in many cases it is a problem, led the international community to take a series of action over the last couple of years. And you might be aware of the 2030 development agendas and the sustainable development goals that were adopted last year or 2 years ago by the United Nations. And migration is actually reflected in those sustainable development goals. There is a call for well-managed development migration policy. They call for the eradication of trafficking, the respect of labor rights of migrants and refugees, and to reduce the transaction cost of migrants. And then we also had an initiative of the General Secretary of the United Nations, Ban Ki-moon at the time, who decided to have the first high-level summit on addressing large movements of refugees and migrants, and that was in New York in the UN General Assembly last year. So all the international communities, so you have to imagine about 200 countries coming together and making some commitments about how to address the issues of migration and refugees. And in this declaration, which you can certainly find, and I would recommend you to have a look at it, it's available on the web, well, there are very strong commitment to improve migration governance and the refugee responses, and a very strong call for the creation of what have been called the two compacts. One compact, global compact on migration, and the other one on refugees. And the idea of those global compacts is that everybody can actually, the member states mainly, but also civil society, can input into those compacts and present best practices. What has been done at the local level, what are the successful examples we have in terms of integration, in terms of humanitarian support for the refugees, for example. All those good examples and best practices will come under those global compacts, which will be then further promoted among the different member states of the United Nations. And throughout all those discussions, there have been an increased attention dedicated to the issue of employment. Really, work and employment for migrants and refugees, in particular refugees, become a central pillar of intervention. And it becomes really a pillar of strategic importance. And this actually put a mandate onto the ILO, the International Labour Organization, for which I'm working in Brussels. For those of you who are not familiar with the ILO is a specialized agency of the United Nations, and it has this specificity that it is a tripartite body, and that means that the decisions and the policy that are adopted by the ILO are actually adopted by the tripartite constituent: workers' organizations, employers' organizations, and governments. So, and the ILO constituency includes 187 countries, so it's a global approach. But what the ILO did last year was that we felt that that actually labor market integration was very important for what Catherine referred to as inclusion. And labor market integration is really the key for people to integrate in our society. That doesn't mean that everybody has to work. We know some refugees in particular may be traumatized and might not be able to work immediately after they come to a new country. But yet, when they are able to access the labor market and work, it's a very, very strong step towards inclusion and integration. So the ILO last year, the constituency of the ILO, so workers, employers, organization, and government, usually represented by the labor ministry, adopted what we have called the guiding principle on the access of refugees and other forcibly displaced persons to the labor market. And that was adopted last year. So those guiding principles provide some, and I won't get into the detail of them because I've got only 5 minutes, which I probably already went over, so I'll be quick. But the rationale for it was to say that an early integration in the labor market for refugees is good for everybody. It's good for the refugees themselves because they can become self-reliant and better, be part of the host society. It's good for the host community because it means that they don't have somehow because they cannot work. And it's also good for the countries of origin, because you can imagine a situation when the war is over, for example, if we think about refugees, then they can go back to their country, and hopefully, at least in the case of Europe, they would have gained some skills and some knowledge that they can actually use in their country when they're back. So that was the rationale to have those guiding principles. And those guiding principles, a very strong point here in the guiding principles is to say that it's very important that the policies and programs that are put in place at the national level meets the needs and expectations not only of the refugees and the forcibly displaced person, but also of local population, of the host communities. And that's very important. And that is based on the experience we have at the global level. It's important in order to avoid segregation and to avoid problem we might have in Europe, such as racism or any other kind of problem, then it's important to have inclusion programs that targets both host community, when we talk about labour market integration, host community and refugees themselves. And that came very strongly out of the discussion on the guiding principles. Those guiding principles are voluntary, they're non-binding, and they're flexible in nature. Of course, you can imagine the situation in Europe is very different from the situation in Pakistan, for example, which is a country that receives a lot of refugees. So there needs to be this flexibility in order to be able to use those guiding principles in different contexts. And the guiding principle call for a more equal sharing of the responsibility with countries hosting large number of refugees. And that's also a key point of those guiding principles. The support of the international community is needed in order to help especially the weakest country to cope, but also the private sector can play an important role. And actually private sector investment is necessary in order to create decent job opportunity for this population. Just to put it in a nutshell, and I know I'm probably already just two final points there. So the guiding principles invite the member states to make action plan policy that can foster decent work opportunities for host and refugees community. And they say that those policies and those action plans should be in conformity with international labour standards, decent work principles, humanitarian principles, and international law. And also what they stress is that the labour market integration should actually be based on labour market needs. So it's very important, especially in Europe, when we have the capacity to do that we can identify where are the needs, where are the skill shortages that we need to fill on the labour market, so that we can actually provide the training where the needs are, and then make sure that the refugees can actually access, not only education, but also education and training, but also a job on the labour market. And my very final point will be on the importance of having equal treatment on the labour market between refugees and local communities. Equality of treatment in terms of access to labour law, in terms of minimum wage, in terms of working condition or working time, on occupational health and safety, gender equality, maternity protection, you name it. It's very important that the same treatments and the same opportunity be given to refugee population and local population. Otherwise, again, we're going to have this segregation that we don't want to see. So the principle of equal treatment is really at the heart of any action on labour market policy for refugees. And I stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We definitely noticed that this principle of equal treatment has appeared in both presentations. And then we have a new perspective on the labour market in what concerns the integration of migrants and refugees. So thank you very much for that. And I will now pass the microphone to Antoine from the European Commission.
Good evening. Nice to be here also because I'm not so young. Also, it's always good to be with young people. When I will pick up just to start on 2 things that were said by the previous speakers. I think said it shouldn't have been a problem indeed because I mean, Europe is a rich country, and I would add, yes, it's a rich continent, and it's an aging one, where we have already skills shortages, and where we will have more and more demographic issues in the future. On what you said also, which is important to me, is that labor market integration. I mean, integration in the workplace is very important for integration. This we fully agree, and we are convinced of that. Then I will explain the two aspects. If you can move on. Yes, this these figures, it was repeated by you in the introduction. Of course, the fear that was clear is because we had this sudden influx of migrants. We try to avoid the word refugee crisis, because it's a crisis if you don't manage integration, actually. Otherwise, it's an opportunity for a continent like Europe. I mean, I was in a conference yesterday in Germany where we were explaining that in 2030 there will be 10 million workers missing in Germany because of the huge demographic issue that they will have. And without migration, there will be huge skill shortage problem. But there are already skill shortage problem in Germany, which explains also the fact that they welcomed, at least in the first phase, so well these refugees and asylum seekers. The issue is, if you can go to the next slide, the issue, if there's an issue, is that integration, in particular for refugees, takes time. And these all studies show that for refugees, you can't see it very well, but there at the top you get a line which is the employment rate of natives, which is, when I say native EU citizen, which is approximately 70%. And you see, this is the line, the blue one is the employment rate of refugees. And it means that when you are just landed, you have only maybe 30%. It's a pity because we don't see the percentage, but we have around 30% of refugees that after 1 or 2 years are able to work, to integrate the labor market. And progressively, they can bridge the gap on for their generation, for their arrivals. It's after 15 or 20 years that they reach the employment rate of the nationals. Why do I show you this? Because it means that we have to invest heavily on integration in order to shorten this period on this time during which refugees are not able, for many reasons, to integrate the labor market, because as you said, integration begins with the integration on the labor market. Then you will ask me, but what do you do for that at EU level? Is the following slide, please. What can we do first? Because what you have to know is that integration is mostly a competence for member states. In the treaty, there's a provision, an article, which is the 79.4, which is in the chapter dealing with migration in general, which says that the EU can support the efforts of member states, provide incentives, but in no way can propose legislation in the field of integration. It means what? But we cannot harmonize the integration policies of member states. This is very clear in the treaty. Then what can we do on this base? We can provide funding, we can provide coordination, exchange, but we cannot take any legislative initiative. But the good news is that we have at EU level what we call a legal acquis in the field of asylum and legal migration. And in this acquis, it means that the legal framework is harmonized at EU level. There are provisions which concern integration for this category of third country nationals who are asylum seekers and refugees. Then there are some provisions in this acquis which concern integration. But of course, not all third country nationals, and the biggest part today of the third country nationals coming to Europe come through family reunification channels, not through refugees. Refugees is was under 10% before the inflow. Now it has increased a lot, but it's not the main reason for migration to Europe. This is important to bear in mind, because people seem to refer to a big wave, but it's not the case when you look at the figures closer. Then, if you can go to the following slide. What do we have as EU funding for integration? We get one fund, which is the Asylum Migration Integration Fund, which is particular because it targets only third-country nationals. And this is the sole target. And we have a priority in this fund, which is integration. It's around a bit less than 1 billion for the period 2014-2020. And we've got other funds which are going to intervene, not only for third-country nationals, but also for the citizens, but in different areas. We get the European Social Fund, which deals mostly with social exclusion and the vocational training. We've got the European Regional Development Fund for infrastructure, for integration, for example, reception centers. Erasmus+, which is dealing with integration in the education system. And also we have, surprisingly, the European Agricultural Fund for Rural Development, which also intervenes for integration in rural areas. And also the Fund for European Aid to the Most Deprived, which is a fund to support NGOs for basic needs like clothes and food, which is very important because we can also support all third-country nationals. Yes, we have exchange of best practices or practices at EU level. We have some common basic principles on integration that have been adopted in 2004. We've got also a network, the European Integration Network, which gathers representatives from member states working on integration. We've got a European Migration Forum, but some of you may know, which gathers all NGOs here in Brussels for 2 days to discuss migration-related issues on integration. We are in contact and dialogue with local and regional authorities, and we have a website on integration where you can find all information about integration policy in the EU. It's the EWSI. If you keyboard this, you will find it. It's in 3 languages. Yes, this is the European website on integration, and it's a very important source of information if you want to know more about what the EU is doing in the field of integration. Then, in 2016, because of this inflow, large inflow of third-country nationals to the EU, we have adopted, and the Commission has adopted an action plan on the integration of third-country nationals that is made of all measures that have been taken by DGs, by the different departments of Commission, put on the table in order to support member states. Then, if you can go to the following slide, then I will not maybe explain you in details the features of the action plan, but what you have to remember is that it's now the general policy framework for integration for the Commission. There are around 50 actions planned. It's for all third-country nationals, but with a specific focus on refugees. And it also has a focus on policy coordination on the actors of integration. But it's divided in 5 priority areas, which you can find easily in other documents or papers on integration. Usually you will find always these different aspects for integration, which are essential when you are talking about integration. Pre-departure, pre-arrivals, which are the measures taken in the country of origin before departure. This is mostly for resettled people, resettled refugees that you are going to take in third country and bring into Europe. Education, which is very important. Labour market integration and access to vocational training. Access to basic services such as housing and health. On active participation on social inclusion, which is also a very important aspect for us in the Commission, because we say integration is mostly integration of the labour market, but it's not only that, as you mentioned, it's also social inclusion and participation into the life of the society. Following slide. Maybe yes, I'm done. When this was the presentation I wanted to make to you, I had to shorten it because we were given 5 minutes. Yes, I wanted to explain more, but this was the format. And if you have more questions, of course.
Thank you so much. I think we will have time to go through what the Commission is doing for the strategies and through all the actions in our discussion. So no need to worry about that. We will be tackling for sure on that. And then the last presentation,
balance we have today here. The slides are yellow, so you can see. But I wanted to thank the Yale for having me here. I think I'm still young, almost 30, so it's good also that you see young faces. But it also means that maybe for some of the questions I will ask my wiser colleagues of the panel. So I will make a short presentation, 5 slides, I hope to be 5 minutes. So I'm working from the ICMPD, International Center for Migration Policy Development, and I'm working more specifically on the MIEUX program, so it's Migration EU Expertise. So yeah, I hope I give also some insights on what can be done also with outside the EU, because we are working inside the EU, but the MIEUX program is mainly addressed to countries outside the EU and collaboration with the EU. Yeah, so I don't know what you can see, but mainly to you is ICMPD, so we have now 15 member states, mainly from Central Europe. The last one who joined are Macedonia, but also Malta, so we are not only in Central Europe. We will have more countries joining soon, so Brussels, Turkey, and probably others. So we are an international organization, but we are still focusing on Europe, so that's what differences from IOM, for instance, or other broader international organization. So there are 200 staff. The headquarters in Vienna, but we have an office here in Brussels. Also in liaison with the Commission, because some of our programs are funded by the by DEFCO and other funds. And ICMPD covers all areas of migration. But the focus recently, because we have a new director general, is to bring new insights on, let's say, rising topics of migration. So this topic of integration and inclusion, but also the involvement of youth in migration policies, but also as targets of migration policies. Yeah, so that's for this. Yeah. So, okay, so on the left you have our new annual report. So it has been published this week. So actually, if you want more information on what we do and all the programs that we implement, you can find it on the website. On the right, you're supposed to see that we are working on 3 pillars. So there is the research pillar, which has done quite a lot of studies on various topics, but also on integration. One of them, which is interesting, and I think it's also applied or utilized in many member states, is on the new indicators for migration integration. And so it's linked with the MIEUX. If some of you know, it gives really very detailed overview of the integration policies in each country, and then they are actually also ranking them to try to boost some of the countries to implement, to develop better policies, but also make sure they are implemented. Our second pillar is migration dialogue. So that's really one of the key elements of ICMPD. So since the beginning, we were given the mandate to make sure that states within Europe, but also outside, are talking to each other. Because now I think it's happening more and more. But so ICMPD was founded in '93. At that time, it was not so much the case, so it was really a national topic. So we have a Budapest process, the Rabat process, and the Prague process, and they each allow different regions to talk to each other and to meet for summits and to debate on key issues where they often don't have the same approach, but at least in this framework they can really share point of view and hopefully come to the same understanding of some issue. And then the third one is capacity building, and so that's where the MIEUX program is, where so as I said, we have a lot of programs. Among them, I wanted to mention the Mediterranean city-to-city migration project. So this one is really focusing on cities and on localities, because as I said, integration, inclusion is really done. Of course, we need to have policies at the European level, national level, but it's really on a daily basis done at the local level. So this project has done, is doing city profiles. So they are trying to look what services are given to migrants, to refugees at the city level, and of course the goal is to build best good practices to be shared among the cities that they analyze. Yes, we also have the Euromed program, Euromed 4, and this one they've done something recently which is very interesting. They've done a migration media award. So they looked on both sides of the Mediterranean, let's say, and they've looked at how migration stories are reported, how they are addressed by journalists. So I will not give all the details, but it's also easy to find on our website. But of course, the main thing that they found is that it was more often negatively reported in Europe than in the South. But they've given an award to I think 30 stories which were like positive stories of migration. Yes, and now we go to the next slide to talk about MIEUX, the Migration New Expertise Project. So quickly, the project started in 2009 and will last until 2019. So it's a long-term project, and I think that's also one thing which is really important to have projects that are not like in reaction to crisis or to short-term solution. Here, with the project, we really had a view 6-10 years, so we are able to build some knowledge and to know on the long term what can be done, what should be done. So MIEUX, so it's a joint initiative funded by the EU but implemented by ICMPD. It's a peer-to-peer expert facility which supports partner countries to better manage migration and mobility, which means that basically we are, contrary to other projects, we are the experts that we are mobilizing are civil servants, so they are directly from the administration of EU countries mainly, but also from third countries. So this allows to, when an expert goes on mission to support a country, when he comes back or he or she comes back to his administration, he's also able to bring back the knowledge, the things that he saw, and to actually in the end build a network among practitioners all over the world. And we're also flexible and demand-driven initiatives, which means that so the overall program is funded, but we only implement activities based on requests from partner countries. So specific ministry who will ask us to help them on a topic, and we draft the action fiche with them. And once we implement, we are flexible in the sense that if crises occur or if they need some modification in the way they want to implement this action, then we can modify it. I mean, it's a bit, we can evolve quite quickly. Yes, if you go to the next slide. So that's to give you an overview. So we are working all over the world. Most of our actions are in Africa and West Africa. So that's an overview. And what I wanted to highlight some of the actions where we work more specifically on integration. and where the request came from municipalities, from the local level, which I think is new in the way integration is tackled. So yeah, a bit late probably, so I can describe that a bit later, but we had such action in Cabo Verde, Jordan, Niger, and Mexico. So that's also to show you that we see very different cases. So from one to the other, we can try to see things that are similar or different, and bring that to each action. And my last slide. So yeah, I wanted to also do a PowerPoint to give you some context, and actually, because we have a new communication officer, and he will tell me to show the slides, but I'm not sure he will be happy with the way it was displayed, but at least to see that we have from here a new website, and you can find us on the social media, so that you to follow us and to use those hashtags or those comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Then I will start out with the panel discussion. I will address the first question to Catherine. So basically, you mentioned in your presentation that a reform of the common European asylum system is needed in order to ensure a functioning and fair legal order. So basically, you said that, you also said that global solutions are required and that Europe should do its fair share. So what do you think needs to be done, and what exactly do you mean by fair share in terms of inclusion of migrant refugees at a local level, for example?
Thank you. And I think that's a crucial question. One of the reasons why is that working? You can hear me? Yeah. One of the reasons why the situation in 2015-2016 became a crisis was because of the dysfunctional legal order that people arrived in. And one of the key problems there is the famous Dublin regulation, for instance, which means that responsibility for asylum claims lies with the country of first arrival. So this has been criticised over many years for creating a disproportionate share of responsibility for the countries through geography where people first arrive. And I think it also creates a perverse incentive for those countries not to keep their standards as they should be. So we have a long history of non-compliance with EU law in Italy and in Greece, for instance, where reception conditions have been deemed to be unsatisfactory, and hence the problem of secondary movement, where people arrive but then make their way to other countries. But that's a flaw in the design of the legal system. So one of the things we're arguing for is a reform of the Dublin system. Not easy, but until it happens, you remain stuck with a certain dysfunctionality. We have other proposals on the table, I won't go into them. Let me take the second point of your question, the global level. And we're talking about two different things when we're talking about refugee protection and migration, of course. Forcible displacement, the displacement of people through no choice of their own, is of course something we want to end. Migration is something that should be viewed as positive. So when we talk about tackling the problem of forced displacement, we want Europe to be doing its fair share, which means that Europe should remain an area which offers protection. At the moment, you could argue that either deliberately or de facto, the strategy within Europe is to block access to protection in Europe and to outsource that through the measures that I mentioned, including the new type of deals with third countries to keep refugees and beneficiaries of international protection outside. So we would like to see, for instance, global resettlement programme, where Europe accepts a fair number of resettled people. We talk about 1 million, around 1 million people arrived, asylum seekers arrived in Europe. There were also 9,000 people who arrived during that year of 2015. Who were those 9,000? They were people who were refugees who were formally resettled under UNHCR programs. 9,000. and 1 million were forced to get on boats and cross the sea. So again, to have a global resettlement system where all countries step up and say they'll take resettled refugees, Europe also has to do its part. I won't say any more because I'm sure you've got other questions, but happy to say more in the discussion if participants are interested.
To remain on this point and to go back at the European level, so what can be done at the European level to tackle the issues that Catherine just mentioned? And I mean, you just mentioned that the integration is a competence of member states. Will that ever change? And why do you think there's this panic around member states and around this topic of migrants and refugees, and how can we tackle that?
There are several questions in your questions, and there should be several answers. Regarding the issue of solidarity in the EU, there have been some, you know that the topic is very sensitive. First, there have been some proposals put on the table by the Commission, the reform of the common European asylum system, with a system included in the revision of the Dublin regulation that you were mentioning, which proposed, in case of high influx, to distribute the asylum seekers in accordance to a quota, which is set with different criteria. All the reform of the asylum system has been based on this principle of solidarity. And as you know, maybe if you follow that closely, the discussion is very difficult. Because the Commission has already proposed a relocation system 2 years ago, which we can say fairly does not really live to the expectation, because out of 160,000, we have now 22,000 people who have been relocated in almost, and we are arriving now at the end of a 2 years period, which will be extended. But there have been some difficulties, and the main difficulties is the unwillingness or the difficulties that member states make in order to accept people, asylum seekers with high recognition rate on their territories in order to deal with the asylum requests. Then, I mean, as long as we have this difficult on this unwillingness of some member states to play the game on solidarity, we will remain stuck. I mean, I think the Commission has made this chair to propose something that was inconceivable, I mean, 5 years ago or 10 years ago. There was a pilot project that we financed on relocation in Malta for 200 people, which didn't work at that time. Then the difficulty is there. And how will this be solved? I mean, I hope personally that we will have more leverage in the future in order to force, in a way, member states who are not willing to cooperate now to cooperate, because solidarity cannot only, you know, in one way by receiving structural fund or agricultural fund, but also by applying EU law, because now we have an EU law which is not applied by some member states. Then it's difficult. On integration, because I think it's the other part of your question, also it's a very sensitive issue. There are some member states who are already demanding in terms of integration. They have put in place some integration programs which can be very demanding. Some have already started to link, benefits to the fact that you are going to follow the integration programs, the civic orientation courses. Then can be good, but we have to make it really a condition. This conditionality can maybe sometimes be exaggerated. We are looking back closely because in our legal migration acquis, we have also some member states can also put in place integration measures for family reunification, for example, and sometimes there are also some sort of abuses in that way. Then we are looking quite closely at that. But on the content of integration policy, I'm afraid that this will remain something that will be dealt at national level for quite a long time. There's not at all any appetite member state to have a common, reference at EU level on this issue. Because different traditions, different on very national views. I mean, the integration program in Austria is not the same as the one in Sweden, I can tell you, or in France or in Germany.
But do you think misinformation maybe is a possible reason why, for example, citizens are panicking regarding this topic? I mean, there has been criticism of the Commission that is not very transparent in the actions that it's pursuing. So maybe, for example, if there are any actions at local levels that actually do something in this regard, so maybe to inform the population of a particular member state of what's going on, then maybe this panic will disappear. Are there any measures taken by the Commission in this sense at a local
Yes,
level?
I mean, we try to promote and to have a positive message on integration, but if you have a government which is totally opposing, on which perceive, on which the public see migration as a threat on the migrants as something that we must avoid at any price, we cannot do very much at the European level. This is a fact. I mean, our outreach to populations is much lower on than the ones of the national and local politicians. But what we can see and what is interesting is that within a member state which can have a very negative position on integration and migration, there are local initiatives which are very positive. Yes, some cities which are taking initiatives, which are making a lot on integration, and we try to support them as far as we can, but it's difficult because our programs, in particular financial programs, are managed at central level. Then, I mean, everything is not black and white. Also in the countries that we perceive as not very cooperative in the field, and we must, I think, support these initiatives and help them. And also, I think what is important is to pass really a positive message, because we already talk about the failure, integration, the problem, the issues, but integration works. I mean, after 10 or 20 years, people manage to integrate. There are many good examples, and the majority of people integrate. I mean, all companies have really understood that. They are aware that diversity is really an asset, because it triggers innovation. And I think, yes, I mean, that's also the message we want to pass at the level. But it's difficult to reach, yes. Because when you play with fears, I mean, on all policy areas, it's easier. People are more receptive to something which goes wrong. Even ourselves, when we look at the news, we are almost appealed by what's going bad. Politician was, robbed something, but someone will succeed after all.
Thank you so much. Now we'll move on to, you mentioned that labor market is a key element in local integration. However, there are many aspects that are still not working at a local level. For example, there are language barriers that refugees, for example, they cannot manage their job because they don't speak the local language. There might be barriers in what concerns the recognition of the needs. So what are the measures that the ILO, for example, is proposing at a local level for local governments to adopt so that they can better include refugees into this society?
Thank you. Well, I think you mentioned the problem and the solution. Of course, language courses is very important. And I think the experience that we have so far, and I tend to be corrected by the other participants, is that language courses give better results when they are combined with on-the-job training. So you combine training language courses plus if you're learning to be a vet or whatever, then you have this training as well. But of course, training is number one. Another important barrier is that you refer to is the recognition of diploma. I mean, within Europe, it's already complicated to have a recognition of diploma for all occupations, but of course, if we're thinking about a country like Syria, it's even more complicated. And in many cases, the refugee coming here would even have a way of proving they have, their diploma because they had to leave their country and they didn't think about, checking the diploma. So there are, of course, all those difficulties. Again, based on the experience so far, is really to have the people working. If somebody tells you, I was working on mechanics in my country, then the best we could do at the moment is really to that person on the site and evaluate, the level of skills. But of course, it's very time consuming and it's very expensive to do that because it's almost a personal coaching. And another important barrier we didn't mention is gender. We have also seen that in some culture it's not well accepted for women to access the labor market. So then we have to work on that, and it can be very challenging, for women to get out of the house and take the bus as we do here and work. And in some cultures it's just not acceptable. So yes, there are many obstacles, but there are also very good examples on how you can overcome those obstacles.
Thank you very much. I will go back to your presentation, Catherine, and basically you mentioned rights of refugees, and we had a conversation just before the panel discussion, and you mentioned that refugees' rights are particularly important. Would you like to share a few things on this aspect?
I think the one of the things we've seen is that when the rights of one group of people are at threat, everybody's rights are also threatened. I mean, human rights are universal, as we all know, and sometimes a lot of the work, when you're working in human rights, the main issues tend to be access to rights, because rights are there on paper very often, but accessing the rights is crucially important. And then the question of universality, with people saying, yes, I believe in human rights, but just not for this group of people or not for that group of people. So one of the arguments we've been making, and it would be interesting to hear if you think it's persuasive, is that from a self-interested perspective, Europeans also have to defend the rights of refugees, because if we start to undermine the rights of one group, you're basically saying that rights are not universal, and you may be the undeserving at another time. So, for instance, one of the aspects of the political debate has been to draw this distinction between refugees and migrants, and talk about refugees as deserving rights bearers and migrants as undeserving, opportunistic or negative things. But these are still people with human rights. So that is one of, I mean, we are a human rights organisation. Our focus happens to be the rights of refugees, but we see that within the context of universality of rights and assisting people to access rights.
Thank you very much. I will go to the last question to you, Romain. So basically, MIEUX is implemented outside of Europe. So based on your programs, what are the actions that you could see could work in Europe? So basically, what could you bring from outside to Europe, and basically at a local level, what can be done, what can be implemented to help improve refugee migrants?
Yeah, thank you. No, definitely it's interesting because in the title of the panel, it was mentioned building mutual understanding. And I wasn't sure if it was only among Europeans, among national level, European level, and local level, but also it was also with third countries. So I think it's very important to have them in mind and to make sure that the understanding is also outside of the EU. But in terms of elements or good practices that we should bring back, I think it was one of them already mentioned. So it's the importance of the pre-departure measures. I mean, I think too often it's only focused for returnees or for resettlement, but I think especially for the language or for refugees or migrants to know the country where they are willing to go, it's crucial that it starts also before they are starting to move. So to learn the language, to learn the legislation, as far as it's possible. But I think that's also a place where Europe could support better and spread better awareness on that. I mean, to tackle these issues before people are already in the countries. Another point would be on the inclusion of a representative or association of migrants or representative of the communities, because what we've seen in some of the actions, so for instance in Cabo Verde or also in Niger, is that, as you mentioned, the ideal situation is when a migrant is welcomed also by migrants. So ideally, those working in that field should not be any of us, I'm not a migrant, but people who already experienced that firsthand. And so, for instance, in Cabo Verde, we were working on developing a municipal action plan to translate the national immigration strategy for the local level. And around the table for the actual drafting of the document, it was not only people of the municipalities or policymakers, but also a representative of the communities, and they had actually a different perspective, but if they were not on board, I think the document would have been useless, or at least not as useful as we hope it to be, because they could not apply to the people that are the first concerned. Yes, and that's, yeah, and also for the policy making and the legislation making at the national or European level, to bring the association, but also to bring the practitioner, because, so as I mentioned, we are working with experts who are civil servants, and often even in the countries, as you mentioned, which are let's say, a bit reluctant to implement European policies or where the national policy or at least the discourse is against migration. The practitioners really, I mean, they are eager to learn, they are eager to understand, they are eager to go more in depth on the cooperation that can be made. So I think that people who are implementing on a daily basis should be involved as much as possible. I think that can bring benefits for both sides. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I will now open the floor for questions if there are any.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm Woollard. You came from Syria. I realized that to have work out to be hired in Brussels is impossible, so I founded an NGO called Exist. We work on catering service and providing food. I have some questions for each of you. The first question is for Mr. from the Commission. How often do you go and meet refugees and discuss their needs? And Madame from ICRI, how many refugees works or volunteers in your organization? And Miss from ILO, how do you often meet refugees to identify their needs? And this outside of discussion, provide words is for materials, not for documents. Thank you.
It's a good question. We meet refugees. We have met many ones who come to see us to expose, but the problem for us is to have an outreach and to have also some. We cannot meet each individual. So we have to talk to bodies or to entities which are organized. We went, for example, we brought our European Integration Network group in Sweden to meet refugees in the largest reception center in Sweden, which is in a region called Västra Götaland, and we stayed in this reception center for one day to discuss with them about their issues, about the problems they have, what they are facing, their hopes, etc. And it was very, very interesting for us. And I think for all the people from the member state that we brought there, I think it was very, very useful. But of course, I think it's fair to say that we don't do it often enough because of lack of time, for many reasons. But we should do it more often. But the answer is yes, we do it, but not enough, I would say.
Thank you. A very good question. At the moment, 25% of our staff have a refugee background. And I started at ECRE last year, and I've just changed our human resources policy so that we give preference to refugee applicants in our jobs. As I said, I hope that will render me unemployed eventually when a refugee takes over at ECRE. We've also just created a member support fund to support the participation in our network, the membership of the Alliance of Refugee-led Organisations, and we have a new policy of refugee participation in all of our events.
Well, now in my current job, I don't meet very often refugees, but I used to work for the UNHCR, which is the UN Organization for Refugees. So that was my, I was basically living in a camp, but that was in Mexico with Guatemalan refugees. And from that experience, you see, what I took back is when you live really in the camp, at least in Mexico, in where I was, it's also when you talk about the needs of refugees, it's extremely hard to talk about the needs, because there are so many needs according to one person. I mean, young refugees would have different needs than older refugees, women would have different than men, etc. So there is also within, we shouldn't see the needs of the refugee as just homogeneous things. It's very diverse also, because it also depends on the condition of the problem. And you see, there are people, I remember those children that, saw terrible things when they were in the war in Guatemala. And obviously their needs of those children were very, very different from, other people who might not have been in contact directly in the conflict. So at the moment, to answer your question, at the moment I don't need, because my job I don't need, but I really remember this, this period of my life where I was in refugee camp in Mexico. So, and that has, really impacted on me. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, panelists, for such an excellent discussion. I have a question. We spoke about inclusion, but in my opinion, inclusion cannot be addressed just for refugees, because refugees as a concept cannot stand alone. There are refugees, refugee women, refugee children, refugee accompanied minors. There are refugees with disabilities. Each different marginalized group has specific needs that need to be addressed for full inclusions. I heard the concept of access to labor market for refugees, but just this morning, for example, I was in European Economic Social Committee listening on debate on inclusion of persons with disabilities, not even refugees with disabilities, but persons with disabilities in Europe. 42% of men with disabilities are currently unemployed in Europe, 44% of women are currently unemployed in Europe. How to tackle the issue of unemployment of disabled refugees, for example? We cannot have an inclusion at this point of this marginalized group of refugees. That's for starters. And this sort of discussion I found a little bit vague for this audience, because you are addressing European future leaders. We have a capacity to address the issues, but what we have is just some sort of vague representation. What should be done, which can actually lead to a negative outcome, because the perception, what should be done, and the acceptance of what is happening in reality creates a major gap in disappointment and frustration of refugees themselves, in persons who try to address issue with refugees. So I lacked a little bit of concrete measures and concrete proposals to this concept, which I really like, inclusion. What actually
can be done with regard to different groups of refugees, especially marginalized groups of refugees? Thank you.
Sure, we will take a few more questions and then we will answer your questions. So next question, please.
Hi. So you guys talked a whole bunch about the quota system and sort of the way forward for the way out of the current crisis, because right now with the Dublin formula, I think it sort of falls on Italy and Greece as much as anyone. And the sort of the question that I had about that is that, because we also talked a whole bunch about integration and inclusion, and there was a bit about language. And I know one of the problems with the quota system is that I think something like half of the refugees who got assigned to Romania just disappeared out of the program because they don't want to go to Romania, because you can't get a job in Romania unless you speak Romanian, and no one in Syria speaks Romanian. Lots of the people in Syria speak English. Romanian, not a rote language. And also, it's a very ethnically homogenous country with no history of immigration really. I think 90% of the immigrants to Romania are, in fact, Romanians, or Romanians from Moldova, where they speak Romanian. And it's not just Romania, it's like Eastern Europe in general has this issue where it's relatively poor. It's not, they don't have the history of integration. You can say a lot about Western Europe's attempts at integration. There's some sort of a history there. And I wonder if the problem with the quota system isn't that we're telling people where they should go, when maybe if we let them make that decision for themselves, they might do a better job of landing in the kinds of places where they could be better included in society. Thanks.
One last question. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Antoine. I have a question that's maybe directed best to Antoine, so I'll speak this we talked a lot about integration and inclusion and how much the labour market outlook maybe needs refugees, especially when it comes to Germany. But I know of many cases where refugees seem to be perfectly integrated. They spoke the language. They even been like working for a business somewhere in Europe or in Germany, I think personally for that. And then they suddenly get deported and are out of the blue, which was also not really good for the business because the people were relying on their workforce and suddenly they were gone. So my question is a little bit like, first of all, this is very contradictory to the whole concept of integration and inclusion, and then the second question, what is done against that? Because it's not something like a singular case, it's something quite rapidly happening. So, thank you very much.
Well, on the first question, a bit the frustration that what can be done concretely, and first of all, for our defense we had 5 minutes, so it's very hard to say it all in 5 minutes. But I think though, the issue is complex. There is no quick fix. There is no simple solution to that. So, and this is sometimes where I personally get frustrated because we're talking about human beings, that may have, their history is very important. And that takes time, and we don't like it because we want quick fix, we want quick solution, we want to fix the problem, but that's not the way human beings are. So it's as you said. I mean, how do you integrate refugee with disability into the labor market? Well, it might take 10 years, quite frankly, and that's the way it is. And I don't have a solution for that. There is no quick fix. It's complex. You have to take into account the background of those people. They come from different cultural background, and all this make it very, very complicated. Now, on the question in Germany, according to my information, I've got a good news on that, is that I understand that now it has been agreed by the German Employer Association that at least for those refugees or those asylum seekers that are in training or in a skills enhancing program, even if they receive a notification that they do not qualify for international protection and have to leave the country, then they would be entitled to stay at least until the end of the training. That's the information I have in Germany. So that doesn't completely answer your question, but at least in terms of training, that gives the opportunity for the people, even if they cannot stay in the country because they don't qualify for international protection, at least they can finish their training. In Germany, that's only in Germany as far as I know.
Yes, I will answer a bit along the lines of what you said. I mean, there's no, if someone had a magical potion, for integration, then I can buy it to you, the patent, immediately. But fortunately, there's not, because as you have seen, representation, you have to act on different angles, on education, on housing, on vocational training, on many policies. And this takes time. I mean, when you decide, in terms of, now we are used with media to go very quickly, that things change, etc. But when you decide a policy, it takes time to implement it first. For example, when we vote a directive, a directive is taken at EU level. First, you have to negotiate it with the Council and the Parliament. It can take years. After, you get 2 years to implement, to transpose it from member state, and then finally you are 4 or 5 years after, when it begins to produce some effects on the ground. It's frustrating, but as an EU official, I cannot answer more than that. There have been some regulations, some initiatives taken, for example, at EU level in the fields of gender equality, in this field also, which has produced some results. But these results are produced, in 10 or 15 years. Same for water quality, same for many things that we do at EU level. The results are quite slow, and it's frustrating. I fully agree with you. But we don't have any better solution than that to address it by each policy. There's no one policy which would solve the problem of integration in the EU. We have to work with different partners on different topics. I think, yes, in Germany also you have this 3+2, was what you are referring to, I think, rule now that will help people who have gotten an apprenticeship to go into the end, even if they have, and also you have in Germany this building system status, which allows people who are not, who should maybe be expected to have a tolerated status, and it's always possible for the member state to grant a residence permit on other basis than a refugee status. If this person is integrated in the labour market and work, it's totally possible for Germany to grant a work permit and a residence permit based on work. And this is not legally a problem. Well, now there's maybe a lack of willingness at political level to send a message that if you don't get if you come through the asylum channel, if you don't get the refugee status, then you have to leave. But this is a different issue. But there's a possibility if you work in particular, because you can get a residence permit on the basis of work. And what was the third question?
Quotas.
Sorry?
Quotas. And
member states that don't want to take in.
Yes, on Dublin. The fact that people, yes, are put in Estonia and not necessarily wanting to go to Estonia. There was a very good report in Time magazine about these relocated asylum seekers who were placed in Estonia with all the problems that you can see. Yes, of course, but if you don't do anything, it's clear. Everybody will go to Sweden and Germany for the moment, for the time being, because there are very good economies, tradition of integration, in particular in Sweden, social benefits which are much interesting than in Romania. But in that case, there are absolutely no solidarity, and what will happen is that Germany will erect some borders, at internal borders, as it had been the case, 2 years ago, and there will be no European cooperation. Then I agree. Ideally, we should have a system where people would agree. But I think, yes, you have to start. If you have integration goes through local communities which are settled. For example, in Finland, you have a huge Somali community, which makes it easier, of course, for Somalis to integrate in Finland because you know that they can find some relative. if in a country X, you have nobody, you have to start at one point to create a community which can also, welcome newcomers. And it starts like this. It started like this in France, with Moroccan and Algerians because of historical reasons. But, when we have to remember that even in countries with a long history of immigration, it started one day like this. And if you don't begin, but I fully agree that it will be difficult for the first generation settling in this country, of course. But do we have another choice? If you have a solution,
if I may respond, there was a question from, I think, a German participant there on people being removed and these kind of uncertainties. When we talk about inclusion, it is about economic and social rights. It's about the right to employment, the right to education, housing, and so on. But it's also about the basic legal right to asylum and stability and certainty when it comes to a person's status. So, for instance, being granted refugee status, which allows someone to stay permanently rather than having temporary protection with the risk that you may be removed, or subsidiary protection, which also may be fragile. Some of the proposals on the table we're extremely concerned about. So, for instance, within the raft of proposals for reform of law, there's mandatory review of people's status every year. Now, which employers are going to take people if every year there's a risk that they may lose their right to reside? So that, I think, is part of the picture. On concrete measures, and we have hundreds of pages of concrete measures, please feel free to look at our website, more than even I can read. But when it comes to Dublin, to give you an example, what we've set out is a matching system which takes into account when people are allocated to a country, it takes into account a whole set of factors, including the preference of the person themselves. Not as the only factor, but as a factor. And if you look at the reasons why people move, there's a lot of myths. It's because of the benefits offered here and there. The evidence shows us it's about language, it's about the economic situation in the country, it's about the existence of a community already. So there's a set of very rational reasons why people may want to move to another country. So that should be taken into account. However, I would certainly agree with the perspective here from Antoine that in the long term, every country in Europe should offer protection to refugees. Enough of these excuses. This is international law, this is international human rights law, and this is EU law. There's very clear standards on reception, on protection, on asylum procedures, etc. If countries are not doing this, they're not compliant, and tougher measures have to be taken. If we see the situation in certain countries, there are flagrant violations of EU and international law on a daily basis, pushing back Syrians at the Hungarian border with dogs attacking them. And for the other member states and for the Commission itself, we're arguing for strongest possible measures against these countries. This is unacceptable. I think there are a lot of and there are measures that can be taken. There are infringement procedures against them, but we can also get to the nitty-gritty of the finances. I think in the narrative on this issue, we also have to try and dispel some of the myths. One of the myths we hear often is integration has failed. This is not what I see in the neighbourhood in Brussels in which I live, where the mayor, the majority of the community, of the councillors are people who came to Belgium as immigrants, as am I, and where you see a level of integration of people from elsewhere that doesn't fit with the myths that we hear. But there's also a myth that certain countries in Europe are somehow ethnically pure. 10% of the population of Romania is Romani, and there is also a sizable Hungarian minority. The country has been provided with billions of euro of EU assistance in order to protect minority rights. So there's no excuse for saying that it cannot be and support the rights of new arrivals. The same is true for Hungary and Slovakia. So I think that this, we should be careful not to buy into some of the president of Romania is from an ethnic minority. I mean, let's not buy into some of the political discourse on these issues.
Yes, if I may just a short point on the concrete measures that each of us can take. I mean, I think we forgot to address one group or one issue. Yes, there's that inclusion, integration is a mutual process. I mean, it cannot only be done for or by the refugees or the migrants. I think one of the key actors is the people, the nationals who are already in the country. So you were asking what to do. I mean, of course, it's good to go in debates and to try to improve the policies and to implement them. But I think, as it was mentioned, you can already go in your neighborhood. I mean, in your city, and try to see where is the Fedazil Center in Belgium or on other centers in other countries. And I mean, they are always looking for help, for support. Sometimes small things just to be able, if you can drive to conduct, I mean, to help to bring people to their activities. And it's also a very important point, I think, that was not really addressed, is the cultural integration. So the way cities or countries are doing activities or doing, there was a Refugees Day, World Refugee Day, a couple of 2 days ago, but I mean, walking around Brussels, I didn't really see like initiatives, or I mean, each of us, each of you can really start something small, trying to bring the two sides, and that will already help for inclusion. So I think that's and the last thing that I wanted to mention. I don't know if you saw the world's best mayor. I invite you to have a look. It's Bart Sommer, who is coming from Mechelen here in Belgium. So he was attributed that prize because in Mechelen, which is a very diverse city, he was able to really bring all the people together through various actions. But I really invite you to look, and I mean, I think it's a start that each of us can bring a small piece to the overall picture, and that we can already, next to our house, start to work on inclusion.
Thank you very much for coming tonight and for the insightful conversation that we had. I would like to remind you that we didn't look for a quick fix and for a quick solution in our conversation. We were debating on, we were discussing on what can be done, what are the measures that can be implemented. And basically, as all of you have mentioned here tonight, change starts at a local level. So basically, all of you can actually start doing something as of today, and you can get involved, and you can volunteer, and you can have an impact on what's going on at a local level, which of course will have an impact on what's going on at a European level. So I encourage you to do that, and thank you very much for coming, and it was a pleasure to have you here, and until the next time.